Muted.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on ICL Innovations, Phosphate Availability in Soils, and Foliar Phosphate Nutrition, brought to you by NineSigma. My name is Jonathan Yaksha from NineSigma, and I'll be your host and moderator for this webinar. Please note that this webinar is being recorded. The recording and transcription will be made available on the ICL Innovation page on NineSights. Our agenda for today, I'll begin with introductions of our speakers. There will be an overview of the ICL Innovation Gallery, and then our panelists will begin discussing the projects in greater depth. We'll take your questions during our live Q&A session and conclude with a brief summary of the project information, including where to get more information and assistance. As we proceed through today's presentation, please feel free to ask questions at any time. We'll take your questions and address them during the Q&A portion of the webinar. Moving along now, I'd like to introduce our panelists from ICL Innovation and NineSigma. From ICL Innovation, we have Aaron Barak, PhD, Director, Product Development for ICL Specialty Fertilizers. And we have Ziv Kohav, Business Development Manager at ICL Innovation. And from NineSigma, we're joined by Kevin Andrews, PhD, Senior Program Manager. Gentlemen, thank you all for joining us today. Ziv, if you could, please tell our listeners today more about ICL Innovation.
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. Well, ICL Innovation is the open innovation program of ICL. What we do is we look for innovation from external sources, academia, startups, any inventors that are working in the fields of interest for us. Once we identify a suitable technology, we go into a contract with the proposer, where the terms are clearly agreed and stipulated, and we fund a project. So we give the money for this continued research, where the idea is that the technology is going to be commercialized through ICL. So we're not looking to acquire a company and go and do an exit. We're interested in the technology, and of course with the proper remuneration of the inventor. So that's basically what ICL Innovation is. It is in the bigger picture, it's part of the R&D or innovation staff of the ICL, which is quite a large number of people, about 500 people in the R&D of ICL. Yeah, Jonathan, back to you.
Great. Thank you very much, Ziv. Turning now to Kevin Andrews from NineSigma for an introduction to the two projects that we're discussing this morning. Kevin?
Thank you, Jonathan. Okay, so ICL Innovation has a gallery on NineSights, and on that gallery we have posted a number of topics that interests ICL, that interests their business units. And in particular, we have a number of topics in the plant nutrition category, two of which are highlighted on the slide that you see here as being related to the topic for today's webinar. The goal of this project, this posting of potential topics on ICL's gallery, is to help ICL drive development that enhances plant nutrition. So in today's webinar, ICL Specialty Fertilizers through ICL Innovation seeks to drive development to improve phosphate fertilizers availability to plant roots.
Great, thank you, Kevin. Turning back to ICL, Aaron, perhaps you could give us some more detail about these two projects. Aaron?
Yeah, just thank you, Jonathan and Kevin. Just a few words about ICL. ICL, that's the mother company. I'm working in ICL Specialty Fertilizers, which are dealing, I will show you in a minute, with more specialty kind of fertilizers. However, ICL is back integrated to potash mines in Israel, in the Dead Sea, but also in Spain, and also developing in Ethiopia, We also back integrated in phosphate in south part of Israel, but also in China, in Yunnan, and looking for other spots. So we would like to talk today mainly on phosphates and improve their availability in soil or foliar. So with this fertilizers of ICL, actually ICL fertilizers and ICL specialty fertilizers produce all kind of products. ICL fertilizers selling mainly some kind of a commodity potash and phosphate, and ICL specialty fertilizers produce more of advanced product. I will show you the next slide. Yeah, as you can see with ICL specialty fertilizers, if we start from bottom up, so for the ground application, we have all kind of coated, polymer coated fertilizers in order to protect them from being leached or absorbed in the soil, and they release over time the nutrients into the soil solution and taken by the roots of the plants. Then we have also water-soluble fertilizers and liquid fertilizers that can be applied via drip irrigation systems with all kind of brands like Nova NPK and Solinur and Pecacid and so on. And we have also foliar water-soluble fertilizers that can be applied via sprayers, via the leaves, and are known as AgroLeaf and Nutrivant in the market. Yep, go on please. Now about the phosphate challenge that we see. So what the status today of all companies, what they sell today? Actually, most of the products you can find in the market are orthophosphates, either granular or water-soluble or sometimes polymer-coated granular product. So for granular, the mostly known in the market are DAP, granular or MAP, or single superphosphate, or triple superphosphate, etc. So it's all based on orthophosphate and sold as granules, which are soluble phosphate in it, but it takes maybe 1 or 2 days until this granule will be dissolved in the soil. Usually these granules are either broadcast or placed near the root system. With a polymer coated granular, it's mainly MAP and sometimes DAP, which are coated. Our company, we are coating MAP. And usually those products are either broadcasted in a rainy region or heavily irrigated region, or placed near the root system. And we have also, many companies are selling also water-soluble fertilizers based on phosphate, like MAP, MKP, sometimes even phosphoric acid. And we are selling also Pecacid, which is a special brand for some kind of a mix between MKP and phosphoric acid. It's actually a solid water-soluble phosphoric acid, more or less, with a little bit of potassium. And here and there you see in the world also polyphosphates are used, especially in the United States. Usually it's a liquid or water-soluble ammonium polyphosphate. But you can find also some other uses of polyphosphate like TKPP or KTPP, mainly for horticulture. Go on, please. The problem that this phosphate see in the soil around them when they applied are the challenges of overcome high pH soils and low pH soils. In the high pH soils, you have calcareous soils. Actually, the phosphate react with the calcium and turn into insoluble salt, and it's not available to the root system. Sometimes these reactions are reversible, and this calcium phosphate can be dissolved back to the soil solution, but in many cases it's fixed and it's irreversible fixation of the calcium. The same with low pH soils. If the pH is below 5, we have the risk of the phosphate being react with iron and aluminum in the acidic soils and will be complexed there and turn to be unavailable to the root system. And in most cases, it is irreversible reaction, so it's not coming back to the soil solution later on. Next. So the possible solution that we can see today for phosphate fixing in the soil is using polymer-coated fertilizers like MAP and DAP, assuming that the roots will come close to the granule, and whenever the diffusion of phosphate will come out of the coating into the soil solution, it will be taken fast enough by the roots without letting the phosphate to be precipitated in the soil. And we have also all kinds of protected phosphates from being precipitated by this manner. Another system, another phosphate that people are using, mainly in the United States, it's ammonium polyphosphate. So ammonium polyphosphate will not react not with the calcium in calcareous soils and not with the iron and aluminum in acidic soils. However, its life in the soil is limited. There are cases that it's limited to 1 day, 2 days, sometimes weeks, but not more than that. And then it's hydrolyzed to orthophosphate. It's hydrolyzed either by bacteria or by enzymes or by chemical reaction in the soil. So that's a good solution for the first day, 2, 3 to allocate the phosphate in the soil, but not more. It will not solve the problem of fixation. Another solution that you can see here and there, some companies offering it, it's adding some kind of additives to the phosphate. It's mainly water-soluble phosphates, like humic acid, assuming that the humic acid will protect the phosphate from this precipitation. It either react with the calcium instead of the phosphate, or with the iron and aluminum in case of acidic soils. So it's become more and more common that company adding some humic acid into the phosphate fertilizers in order to protect them from being fixed. And there are other solutions. I hope, and I'm sure that there are in some research, with some researcher, with some laboratories, some other solution more efficient than humic acid. And this is exactly what we are looking for this kind of solutions, how to protect phosphate effectively, economically, from being fixed in high and low pH soils. Jonathan, go on. So, just a few words about the foliar application. Phosphate applied in many crops also as a foliar application, especially the water-soluble phosphate like MAP or MKP, or in our case, in ICL, also we are recommending foliar application with spec acid. It can be also just one of the components in water-soluble NPKs that companies are selling for foliar application. It can come either as a water-soluble fertilizer, as a salt, a powder, or it can come also as a suspension, but it has the same performance, the same value. Also here, there are some companies and some researchers adding some all kinds of additives in order to improve orthophosphate uptake and the effectiveness via the foliar application. So this is exactly what we are looking for as well, for these additives that can improve phosphate efficacy also via the foliar application. Next, please. So just to summarize, we are looking for creative solutions, interesting solution, chemistry or physics sometime, how to improve water-soluble in fertigation and foliar by adding some additives into it. We also looking for non-water soluble additives for granules, for broadcasting and incorporation. Both of them, of course, has to be economical, and as you know, in agriculture, we cannot go to expensive solutions. We have to stay close to the price of the phosphate and not too much more. That's it.
Great. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you for that deep dive into these projects. We'll turn back to Kevin Andrews from NineSigma. Kevin, can you tell us why our solution providers should be interested in responding to these projects?
Yes, thanks, Jonathan. So ICL is ultimately committed to outcomes. Following successful evaluation and approval of your proposal, ICL Innovation will fund a proof of concept stage or continued research as necessary to fit ICL's needs. Projects that show commercial viability after that proof of concept will be transferred to business units for commercialization. Their remuneration will include project funding and agreed upon royalties where applicable. The commercial terms, the intellectual property issues, the publication rights, and confidentiality are all agreed to in advance of the project so that the process is transparent, efficient, and fair.
Great. Thank you, Kevin. We'll now turn to the Q&A portion of today's webinar. As previously stated, if you have any questions for either the ICL Innovation folks or for Kevin from NineSigma, now would be an excellent opportunity for you to submit your questions and get an answer live during today's webinar. We already have a number of questions to get to. If, however, we don't get to your question during today's Q&A session, the questions will be answered following the webinar and posted on the ICL Innovation page on NineSights. First off, our first question will be for Kevin. Kevin, if I submit a proposal, how is my IP protected?
So first of all, your response should be a non-confidential response. Don't reveal anything that you don't already have protection for. We don't want to receive that confidential information. If you have something that's patented or patent application in progress, and you feel comfortable talking in a little bit more detail, that's fine. If you cannot reveal the details of your proposed solution without a disclosure agreement, then set aside the how and talk about maybe something about performance to be sufficiently informative that the ICL folks would look at that proposal response and want to pick up the phone. Your goal is essentially to create an introduction towards further dialogue.
Okay. And a similar question, kind of along those same lines, how long should my proposal be?
So your proposal really does not have to be long. It should be fairly brief. Typical responses could be 1 to 3 pages, maybe with an additional document or two to supplement your submission. If, for example, you had a patent application that you wanted to share. Really, it's about an introduction at this point. Give us a brief description of your potential approach and who you are, and then additional information can follow as ICL follows up with you.
Great, thank you, Kevin. Turning to the gentleman from ICL, does a solution need to be ready for commercialization, or are early stage solutions also of interest to ICL? Ziv, Aaron?
So maybe I'll take this one. The whole idea of ICL Innovation from its beginning in 2012 was to accommodate early stage solutions. In this, we're different than the R&D in the business units, in that we can accept those long-term, many times high-risk early stage technologies. So we're open for this if we think that that there is feasibility here, both technological and business-wise. Then we can go ahead and fund this research, even if it's early stage.
Very good, thank you, Ziv. I think this next question might be more directed towards Aaron. Are there approaches that are not of interest?
Oh, I don't know how to answer it. Anything which is innovative, it's new, and it's not assuming that it's not known to us, it has a value. If it's a commodity kind of a solution that one can assume that a large company like ICL already knows about it, so probably it will not be of our interest. But anything which is new, which is hopefully not published yet, or if published, still IP can be kept, in this way or the other, will be our interest.
Okay. Thank you, Aaron. I think we'll stay with you for this next question. Would you be interested in solutions that enhance the uptake of other nutrients besides phosphorus?
Yes, of course. We are dealing, our company dealing with specialty fertilizers or fertilizers as a whole, and we are the most important aim is improving the nutrient use efficacy. So this day we talked about phosphate, which is a big challenge to improve them, but of course we are interested to hear about any nutrient use efficacy system or product or chemistry or whatever related to it.
Great, thank you, Aaron. Before we proceed to our next question, I'd just like to reiterate to our attendees today that this is an excellent opportunity for you to pose your questions directly to members of ICL and NineSigma to get your questions answered promptly and immediately. This would be a great forum for you to ask if your particular approach would be in scope or not, and I highly suggest that you avail yourself of this opportunity. Proceeding on to your next question. Are you interested in phosphorus uptake in specific plant species or phosphorus uptake more generally?
I think both. If there is a system which is specific to certain type of cropping, like greenhouse, like soilless cultures, of course we will be interested. But we're interested generally in any nutrient use efficacy in any system. If it's too small and too specific, might be not, because we are a global company and we would like to sell globally and not very specific local solution.
Very good, thank you. Thank you, Aaron. Our next question, following up on the other nutrients question, does ICL have inhibitors as part of their product line, such as nitrification inhibitors?
Again, I didn't understand the question. I understand the statement, but what is the question?
The question is, does ICL have inhibitors as part of their product line, such as nitrification inhibitors?
No, we don't have, because generally we are, if you look at the portfolio of ICL, it's mainly back integrated on phosphate and potassium, so we are concentrated more on them. We are not, you cannot consider ICL as a nitrogen producer. even that we use nitrogen in our blends, but we are not a producer, a basic producer of nitrogen. So this is the last priority for us, nitrogen inhibitor. Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Aaron. I think we'll stay with ICL folks for just a moment longer here. What is the price per metric ton, sorry, of phosphate that defines the limit of economic viability for an additive?
So if we take today, let's say the water-soluble phosphate fertilizers, let's take just a rough number of $1,000 per ton, which is higher than the granular phosphate fertilizer, which are probably at around $500 per ton. So if the solution is in a range of 10%, 15% of the cost, like for water-soluble, $100, $150 per ton, for granular fertilizer, a bit less, then it's excellent solution. However, sometimes even higher cost can be, if it's a really significant improvement, it might be considered.
Very good, thank you. Our next question, we will hand back over to Kevin Andrews from NineSigma. This is one that we get quite a bit. Can I respond to more than one project?
Absolutely. Please submit responses to as many of the topics as interest you. It's helpful if you can tailor your responses slightly topic to topic rather than just reproduce the exact same content. You know, give us some idea why you're interested in the particular topic at hand.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kevin. Our next question, are you interested in technology that can be incorporated into existing fertilizer technology, or are you seeking a completely new fertilizer approach? Ziv, Eran?
No, of course, we are interested either in a new approach or to be added to regular fertilizers to improve their performance, both.
Very good, thank you. We will wait just a moment here for our next question to come in. As I said previously, if you have any questions, now would be an excellent opportunity for you to pose them to ICL and to NineSigma. This is a great opportunity for you to get your answers right away so that you can begin working on your proposals. So if you have any questions, please feel free to submit them via the Q&A chat box. We'll wait just a moment for our next question to come in. At this time, it looks like we have run through all of the questions that have come in. Thank you very much for all of those questions. If, however, you think of a question that you would like to pose to either Kevin or Ziv or Eran from ICL, we'll have some information for you in the upcoming slide that will give you some guidance about how to get answers for those questions. My apologies, we have our next question coming in. Some additives cause handling problems. Do you have a test for this? Ziv,
Well,
Eran?
I'm not sure I understand what kind of handling problem. Usually we have quite advanced laboratories in ICL, and we are doing a lot of field trials, and we have studies with some universities that we do. So, but I'm not sure what does it mean handling problem.
To the submitter of the question, if you could please submit a clarification question. Okay, we have the clarification. They're interested in the flowability of the additive solution. Is that a particular concern for you?
So this may fit to liquid fertilizer with liquid phosphate. we have to look at that, how it may fit to water-soluble or to granular fertilizer if you add also liquids into it. But we can be creative and find some solutions if it gives really significant solution to adsorption and fixation problems.
Okay, very good. And actually, Aaron, sticking with you, we have a question asking if you could possibly please repeat the price for a metric ton.
So if we are talking water-soluble fertilizers like MAP or MKP, it's around, okay, it's going up and down, depend on the year, but it's around $1,000. Sometimes it's $1,300, sometimes $900. But let's take $1,000, and we can think about 15% cost of additive to improve it. That's reasonable. But as I say, sometimes if the additive cost will be even higher, if the solution is very significant solution and we can reduce as a consequence of that significantly the amount of phosphate to be used because it's much more effectively used, then we will consider it, of course, positively. If we are talking about granular phosphate like MAP granular, DAP granular, TSP, so these are around the $500 per ton, and they are more sensitive to price differences. So let's say 10%, like $50, $60, $70 additional cost could be considered easily. All the rest will have to be tested case by case.
Very good. Thank you, Aaron, for that recap. Turning back to Kevin. Kevin, you indicated a few general points to include in the proposal, but is there a typical outline available for info needed? The solution provider would just like to make sure that they hit on all the desired points.
That's a good question. So we don't typically provide an outline. There is in the response mechanism a template that you complete. So in that, fundamentally, you're going to describe at a high level, without revealing confidential information, what your proposed approach is, and maybe talk about the salient or poignant points indicating, the performance of that approach. A lot of times, solution providers talk about how well something works without necessarily telling us how it works, because they don't want to give away their answer. And then to talk about, in a high-level sense, how you would envision working with ICL Innovation in collaborating to further your approach. Again, at this point in time, you don't have to offer, a detailed description of cost of your program, et cetera. That comes later. And then finally, to tell us who you are. Tell us something about, your interests and your research background, and why you'd be an interesting partner to collaborate with.
Very good. Thank you for that explanation, Kevin. The questions coming in seem to have trickled off, so I think at this time we'll begin to wrap up today's webinar. As I said previously, if you have a question that occurs to you after the conclusion of today's webinar, there will still be the opportunity for you to get an answer to that question. We'll have information for that in an upcoming slide. So thank you all for that Q&A session. So what can you do today? Up on your screen, you'll see the URL for the ICL Innovation Gallery on NineSights. You'll also see the URL for the two projects of interest that we discussed today. Additionally, you can see the email address and telephone number for the NineSigma Provider Help Desk. The Provider Help Desk is there to assist you with submitting your proposal, to creating your account on NineSights. Also, they're there for passing along questions that you might have about your particular approach. So if you've got a question that you would like addressed by ICL Innovation or by Aaron in particular, please feel free to submit your questions to the provider help desk and we'll get you the information that you're seeking. So that will conclude today's webinar this morning. For additional information, again, please, we encourage you to visit the ICL Innovations Gallery on NineSights. While you're there, you can register with NineSights and complete your profile, a necessary first step to submitting your proposal to either of the projects discussed today. One final reminder that the webinar was recorded and will be made available along with the Q&A transcript. Thank you to our speakers for their time and their expertise. To our audience, we thank you for the time that you took, and we look forward to receiving your proposals. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you.